Today's video, we're going to be sharpening an Emerson CQC-7. It's an interesting knife to sharpen because unlike most conventional knives, this is a chisel grind. You see there is no bevel ground on this side of the blade. It is completely flat and then beveled, and then the edge on this side of the blade. Not too many makers are making knives like that. And it's a very steep angle compared to most knives. A knife from like a, I don't know, like a buck or a SOG in my collection, they're down at like anywhere between 15 and 20 degrees. So it's things like, regular conventional production companies, Buck, SOG, Gerber, they're in that type of angle range. This Emerson CQC-7 is probably up around a 35-degree angle on this edge. So it's meant to be a tough edge. And hold that edge a bit longer since it's a steeper angle. So what we just did here while I was chit-chatting is I marked the edge with a Sharpie so I can see where I'm removing steel. And since it's just one edge bevel, I'm going to find my angle on my sharpening stone here. And let me flip the camera around for you. Now I'm currently just holding my phone with my other hand because I'm not set up to film like this. But to find our angle, we want to lay the edge down until we don't see a shadow anymore. See, there's still space. We want to make sure that edge is flush with the stone. Once you do that, you've found your angle. And as you can see here, the knife is going to be pulled back towards me. Typically when I sharpen, I will go like this, but there's no edge on this side. So for this knife, I am going to pull it back towards myself so I can see that edge touching the stone. Okay, so we'll get an overhead shot here. I'm just going to wet this stone with a little water and soap concoction I have here. You don't really need to wet diamond stones, but I typically do. So I'm finding where this edge meets, and so there's no shadow, and I'm going to move it across the stone. And I am mostly removing that marker. I still got some on the very apex of the edge over here. So we're going to make sure that is down on the stone and keep going. Okay. And now I'm kind of moving out of frame here a little bit. Right now I'm using the coarse stone. Okay, we're gonna keep going here. I'm feeling some burr, but and you want to go until you feel this burr. So like if you push your thumb up, you should be able to feel, where there's like a piece of the edge that moves off of the blade, and we call that a burr. So you're removing that steel. I'm using some more pressure here than I was before. Because we need to form that burr to make sure we get a sharp edge, and it is definitely here now. I might do a few more passes. I know my stone is moving here a little bit out of frame for y'all. Okay. All right. Now, this is what we want to do. We need to remove that burr. So we're going to lightly pass over the back side of the edge. Because we don't want to form an edge on that side, just to remove the burr. Okay, now it feels gone to me. So I am going to grab a paper towel here quick. And I'm going to dry a blade. And I'm going to switch to this fine grit stone. And I'm going to remark my edge. Okay. Now, same thing. We'll wet this a little. Now we're doing the same exact thing on this finer grit stone to refine the edge. Okay, we got our angle here. Mainly due to some, I guess, muscle memory, we'll say, from doing the first coarse grit stone. I've done a few other CQC-7 sharpening videos in the past, probably a couple years ago maybe. They're still out there. I did not use this method that I'm showing you now. Before, I was going like this and still using that Sharpie, but you know, recent discovery has found it, you know, pulling towards me to definitely be easier, at least for this main edge. Now, this is a WorkSharp guided sharpening system that I'm using here. But like I said before, this is a steeper angle than most knives, so we're not using the angle guides. And you can use any sharpening stone for this. I recommend diamond stones for certain, though. Now, also with this really steep, like 35-degree angle, you may not get, you know, that really slicey, paper cutting, arm hair shaven edge that you would on a blade that has like a 17-degree angle. It's just much thicker than that and doesn't really work the same way geometrically. But I think we're going to move on here. And just so this, a tanto blade like this, you have to sharpen both edges separately, or else you'll lose that sharp angle right here on your knife. Sorry, I'm checking my work here while I do this. Let's go lightly on the back side for a few swipes to try to remove any burr. And so this front edge here, the tanto tip, I found it's definitely sharper than the main edge because it sees a little bit less use. And the angle on this is even steeper than what, you know, I found to maybe be close to 35 degrees on the main edge. And this one I am going to push. And if you can see, you know, we got to try to get that black off. We are hitting the apex of the edge. All right, here we go. All right, and I think that has formed a bit of a burr there. So we're going to just do this. few light passes on the back. And we're going to get a leather strap here, if I can find it. Here's a piece of leather glued on to this wood board. Yeah, move this up here so we're in frame. And I'm going to go across that leather, try to find the angle. Remember, we got to do 2 separate edges here. Get the tip. That's a sharp tip, that's for sure. All right, let me move this back. Reason being, sorry I'm out of frame, but the way the table is, it's much easier to strop with the handle hanging off the edge of the table. So, well, let me, we'll just change the angle tripod here. We're just stropping this and stropping this to make sure there is no burr. Okay, let me see if I have a tiny piece of paper around here to see if this edge can cut it. Here's something. See that? We've got a nice sharp edge on this awesome tactical folding knife from Emerson. Hopefully this video helped somebody out. I wanted to make it because I saw, it was probably a week or two ago now, that somebody in a knife group on Facebook that I'm a part of was looking for tips on sharpening the CQC-7, because it's not your everyday grind that most people are used to. So it's not harder to sharpen than any other knife. You know, it really takes half the time because there's only one edge, and we were able to get it relatively sharp. See, like I said before, it's a much steeper angle geometrically, and it's not going to have quite the same paper slicing as, you know, a 17-degree edge bevel. You know, those thinner edge bevels that you'll find on many like EDC and hunting type blades out of the factory are much lower, and, you know, maybe a hollow grind, especially from a company like Buck. And they will be a weaker edge. And that's not a knock on those companies, don't get me wrong. It's just geometry. And because they're thin and won't stand up to the pressure and abuse, one could say, of an edge with a higher angle, like this Emerson CQC-7. You know, a hollow ground buck knife, which I love. Buck 110, you know, that hollow grind, it's concave edge, and it goes down to that super thin tip. It's thinned out, while this remains relatively thick. So it's gonna be, it's not a convex grind like an axe, but it's going to be thicker, you know, maybe, and compared to the edge of an axe instead of a hunting knife. And we're just continuing on the strop. This one I feel like is a bit finer than that one I just have on this board. So I usually finish with this one. But again, that does it for this video. I'm sure it was long enough for you to sit here and watch me strop and try to babble on anymore, but hopefully this helped you sharpen your Emerson CQC-7. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.